welcome to my channel. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. I was never the type to enjoy farms. Something about the wide open spaces and the isolation always gave me the creeps. But my buddy Tommy had been asking me for months to come visit his family's farm. He'd always go on and on about how peaceful it was, how quiet the nights were, and how the stars lit up the sky like nothing I'd ever seen in the city. So, one weekend, I finally gave in. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? I packed my bag, got in the car, and drove down those long, winding roads until the familiar city lights disappeared behind me, replaced by fields stretching out as far as the eye could see. After what felt like hours, I finally pulled into Tommy's driveway. The farmhouse was just like you'd imagine, old but sturdy, with a wraparound porch and a couple of chickens pecking at the ground nearby. Tommy was waiting for me with his usual goofy grin. "About time you made it," he shouted, waving me over. We exchanged a quick hug, and he led me inside, introducing me to his parents, who were nice enough, and giving me the grand tour. It was all so normal, really. Maybe this farm thing wasn't so bad. We spent the evening hanging out in the backyard, just kicking back, looking up at the sky like he said we would. I had to admit, the stars were something else. They seemed brighter out here, like they were close enough to reach out and grab. We talked about old times, had a couple of laughs, and before I knew it, the night started creeping in. Tommy suggested we go for a walk around the property, and I agreed. We set off, wandering down the dirt path that led from the house toward the fields. Tommy pointed out all the usual farm stuff: barns, stables, fences. After a while, he started telling me about the old stories his family used to tell about the place. You know, the kind of tales every family has, spooky stuff meant to scare kids into behaving. He mentioned something about an old legend his grandparents used to tell about a ghost that wandered the fields. But I wasn't really paying attention. The truth is, I was more focused on this strange feeling that had crept up on me. It felt like something was off, like we weren't alone. Every now and then, I'd look over my shoulder, convinced I saw something out of the corner of my eye, just a shadow. But it was always gone when I turned to look straight at it. At first, I didn't say anything. I figured it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, you know? It was dark, after all. But the more we walked, the more certain I became that something was following us. I kept seeing it, a shadow moving just behind me, always too quick for me to catch a full glimpse of. I finally couldn't take it anymore. "Hey, Tommy," I said, trying to sound casual. "You ever feel like you're being watched out here?" Tommy just laughed. "You city boys and your overactive imaginations," he teased. "There's nothing out here but you, me, and a whole lot of nothing." But I wasn't convinced. There was something there. I knew it. The feeling was growing stronger with every step, and no matter how much I tried to shake it off, that shadow stayed right behind me, always just out of sight. We kept walking, Tommy still rambling on about who knows what. But I couldn't focus. I was too busy glancing over my shoulder, trying to catch that shadow in the act. At one point, I was so certain I saw it that I stopped dead in my tracks. "Seriously, Tommy," I said, more urgently this time. "Something's following us." Tommy turned to look at me, his grin faltering a bit. "All right, man. If it makes you feel better, we can head back." We turned around and started walking back toward the house, but the feeling didn't go away. In fact, it got worse. The shadow wasn't just behind me anymore. It felt like it was getting closer. Every time I looked over my shoulder, I half expected to see something reaching out for me, something dark and shapeless. By the time we made it back to the farmhouse, I was practically running up the porch steps. I don't think I'd ever felt so relieved to be inside, but that relief didn't last long. We sat in the living room for a bit, just talking and trying to shake off the weird vibe from the walk. But even inside, I couldn't get rid of that feeling. It was like the shadow had followed me right into the house. My eyes kept darting to the windows, expecting to see something standing there, watching. It was late and I was exhausted, so I decided to call it a night. Tommy showed me to the guest room and I collapsed onto the bed, hoping that sleep would make everything feel normal again. It didn't. I don't know how long I was asleep before I woke up, but something felt wrong. You know that feeling when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're not sure why, but you just know something's off. That's exactly what this was. I lay there for a minute, staring up at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that everything was fine, that it was just my imagination again. But then I heard it. A soft, shuffling sound, like footsteps, moving slowly down the hallway. I held my breath, listening as the footsteps got closer and closer until they stopped right outside my door. My heart was pounding in my chest, and for a second I thought about calling out, asking Tommy if it was him, but something stopped me. Something told me that whatever was outside that door wasn't Tommy. I stared at the door, waiting for something to happen, waiting for it to open, for the footsteps to continue, but nothing came. After what felt like an eternity, I finally gathered the courage to get out of bed. I tiptoed to the door, my hand shaking as I reached for the knob. Slowly, I turned it and peeked out into the hallway. Nothing. The hallway was empty. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and stepped out into the hallway, looking both ways. Still nothing. But just as I was about to turn back to my room, I caught something out of the corner of my eye. A shadow. It was standing at the far end of the hallway, barely visible in the dim light. My heart stopped as I watched it, waiting for it to move, but it just stood there, unmoving, watching me. I wanted to run, to turn around and bolt back to my room, but my feet wouldn't move. I couldn't take my eyes off the shadow. It was like it had me frozen in place. And then, slowly, it started to move. It didn't walk, though. It just glided toward me, like it wasn't even touching the ground. I could feel my legs trembling, but I still couldn't move. It was like I was trapped in some horrible dream. As it got closer, I could make out more details. It wasn't just a shadow. It was a person. A woman, I think. But there was something terribly wrong with her. Her face. Half of it was just gone. I could see bone, skin hanging loosely, like she had been in some kind of terrible accident. But it wasn't the sight of her that terrified me the most. It was her eye, that cold, dead eye, staring straight at me like she could see right through me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. All I could do was stand there watching as she floated closer and closer until she was right in front of me. Then she stopped. For what felt like an eternity, we just stood there, face to face, her empty eyes locked onto mine. I don't know how long we stood like that, but it felt like hours. Finally, she reached out a hand, and the moment her fingers brushed against my skin, I snapped out of whatever trance I was in. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet and crashing to the ground. When I looked up, she was gone. Just like that. Vanished. I scrambled to my feet and ran back to my room, slamming the door behind me. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I just sat there, wide awake, waiting for the sun to rise. The next morning, Tommy came in, knocking lightly on my door before stepping in. He took one look at me and frowned. "You all right, man?" he asked, concern clear on his face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to sound crazy, but I couldn't shake the image of that woman's half-missing face, that cold eye staring at me. I knew I couldn't just shrug it off like it was nothing. I had to tell him. I took a deep breath and told him everything, about the shadow following me last night, about the footsteps in the hallway, and about the woman I saw standing there, staring at me. I could see Tommy's expression change as I spoke. The lightheartedness from the night before was gone, replaced by genuine worry. "You're serious?" he asked, his voice lower now. "I mean, I've heard stories, but nothing like that's ever happened here before." He rubbed the back of his neck, clearly unsure of what to make of it. "Look, if you want to leave early, I won't blame you. Whatever you saw, it's got you spooked. I'd be worried too if it happened to me. I nodded, but I wasn't sure what to do. Part of me wanted to get out of there, but another part of me needed answers. What was that thing I saw? Why did it come to me? And more importantly, was it still out there, waiting? Tommy stayed quiet for a moment before finally saying, "Just promise me you'll tell me if anything else happens, all right? I don't like the idea of you dealing with this alone." I thanked Tommy, and then I left his farm. Ever since then, I haven't been to the farm at all. Thank you for listening to this video. I'll see you in the next one.